Hello, my name is Paula Hernandez, and this is my final presentation for Honors 3103. And today I'll be analyzing the inflation of infection or how fear affected American competitive markets during COVID 19. My thesis: the American economy was subject to shortages rising from the fear surrounding the global COVID 19 pandemic. Now, while panic buying received national attention during the COVID 19 pandemic, it is a behavior that's been present throughout history. Fear of nuclear war rising from heightened tension between the USSR and the USA during the Cuban Missile Crisis coaxed people to clean out supermarkets of non perishable goods, flashlights, batteries, and of course, toilet paper. The Iranian Revolution gave way to similar fears when oil producing countries in the Middle East collectively organized to reduce oil production by 5% every month in order to pressure oil consuming countries to denounce Israeli occupation in disputed territories, which resulted in an increase in the price of oil for Western countries. Anxious drivers desperate to fill their tanks quickly tapped out the gas stations across the United States. And the anticipation of the apocalyptic year 2000 also brought on an onslaught of panic buying of faulty computers, safety protocols, and predatory insurance policies. Now, why do people panic buy? There are four main reasons why people panic buy. The first one being survival. Negative emotions regarding the topic can make some believe they are worse off currently. Anxiety. Buying goods deemed to be valuable can alleviate someone's stress over the threat. Herd mentality. The more that goods are bought, the more others will want to buy those goods. And perception. An individual's own misunderstanding of the crisis can lead them to panic buy. Now, the start of the COVID 19 pandemic in the late 2019 and early 2020 witnessed massive panic buying on a global scale, but particularly in the United States. Following the reasons discussed earlier, people ransacked grocery and convenience stores for sanitary supplies, food, and electrical appliances. Those with malicious intent often sought to resell these items to desperate consumers at a high price. I'll be analyzing panic buying in three separate consumer markets. In each of these markets, we saw a notable increase in demand. Economically graphed, this looks like the diagram on the right, where supply cannot keep up with an increase in demand, therefore causing prices to increase exponentially. These markets will be toilet paper, gasoline, and PPE. When the coronavirus pandemic hit, toilet paper sales in the US jumped by 845%. Panicked individuals quickly overwhelmed grocery stores, depleting the few weeks' worth of stock that every store has in its reserves. Toilet paper is typically one of the goods that is most affected in a crisis because people want to take back control in times of uncertainty. And toilet paper does not go bad or get outdated. It's a good that lasts as long as it's needed. As such, panic around its supply is understandable, although not well founded. Here we see some articles reflecting the tumultuous situation around toilet paper pricing. There's a lot. Those panic buying the goods often have a sinister ulterior motive to profit off of the fear around the pandemic and resell their goods for really marked up values. This became national headlines when several of these resellers were fined and cited by police forces across America. With lockdown protocols in place, gasoline was not in high demand. Factories were forced to reduce productivity as workers were unable to return to work with consistency. As such, reduced hours across workforces did not necessitate as much gasoline. However, with the alleviation of lockdown laws across the country, people are returning to in person work, increasing the demand and need for gasoline. However, since the production factories have been ramping up since lockdown has lifted, the current supply is still far too small, and major shortage is predicted for summer 2022. Furthermore, the work side of supply side workers for oil transportation has reduced significantly, given that the pandemic has made people aware of their personal time and competitive. Here we see again price gouging of panic bought goods in the petrol market, and cops taking on the issue as a criminal felony. Panic buying has its own negative aspects, fuels people to commit selfish acts that feed off the fear of others, especially for necessary goods like gasoline. Throughout the pandemic, the US has suffered shortages of personal protective equipment or PPE. The shortage has gotten worse to the point where nearly 90% of nurses reported reusing at least one type of single use PPE. Furthermore, the stockpiles of PPE have been reduced thanks to cuts to public health budgets, panic buying, and, however, the biggest factor has been China, the world's biggest exporter of PPE, reducing their export size since they suffered their own crisis. And yes, there is more price gouging in the PPE market as well. Price gouging and criminal charges are commonplace. However, unlike gasoline and toilet paper, where the offenders were just ordinary people taking advantage of the system, the PPE gouges were due to powerful and wealthy individuals exploiting fear for huge monetary gain. PPE is a necessary good for hospital systems, and the lack of it could cause the whole system to come down and people to get hurt, which is beyond deadly in a pandemic. So shortages that we see now do equal higher prices in the future. Even today, we're still seeing the effects that began during the start of the pandemic. With all the shortages affecting consumer markets, we're going to start seeing a rise in prices. For instance, the makers of Cottonelle, Scott, and Viva brands announced that it will hike prices on a majority of its North American consumer product, including toilet paper and baby care items. Additionally, gas prices across the country are also going up, and with the various COVID-19 spikes, PPE equipment is continually needed, and the price of equipment has not gone down. So what are some possible solutions to panic buying? Well, here I have three. Consistent messaging. Media and social networks alike need to reaffirm that there exists no need to panic buy and to help the less privileged as much as possible. Second would be identity fusion. Governments can implement effective policies to encourage public empathy and understanding of issues. Emergency plans, coming together with family to prepare a list of items that can be stored for emergencies. And these are all solutions that could mitigate fear and make people feel more reassured that the crisis will be handled. And thank you. And here are my sources.